Bonjour and welcome to the first in a different kind of series where I'm going to concentrate on comic artists and their work specifically. And I've been meaning to do this for a while because it's a bit self-indulgent, but it's my favourite comic artists, and I'm going to concentrate on the Apex editions first of certain artists' artwork. And the first one I'm going to be doing is Mick McMahon, and this, I've got to sit back a little bit, and we're going to be looking at this bad boy. It's the 2000 AD artwork of Mick McMahon. Look at this, reproducing the artwork in, I think if it's not original, it's the original size. It's nearly, it must be nearly original size. And I'm going to compare it, just for a little bit of added flavour, I'm going to compare it to the original 2000 AD artwork, like that. That was the artwork for the cover. It is inside as well. I think it's the first page, so that's one of the first ones we're going to do. Just thought that might be a bit different. It's going to be a little bit of me gushing about 2000 AD as well. One of the best comics of all time, and I mean that. First 10 years of this comic, we're going to have a little look at it, and we're going to have a little look at it again and again, because the next one I'm going to do Mick McMahon Apex edition. There's a Brian Bolland one I'm going to be doing, and there's a Kevin O'Neill one I'm going to be doing, there's a Steve Dillon one. So without further ado, because these are quite long videos, because we're going to be looking at all this artwork in detail, glorious artwork. So if you're up for that, put the kettle on. You're going to need a few cups of tea or coffee to get through this one. Yeah, let me know if you think it's a bit self-indulgent. Anyway, I'm going to enjoy having a look through this book with you, because it helps me sit down and mull over things. And I've had to research and dig out some of my old 2000 ADs, which I've enjoyed doing. So let's get right into it after the scroll. Right, okay, so let's get started on this bad boy. And like I say, I've got a stack of 2000 AD and stuff, just to show you, because for some people, I mean, these Apex editions for me are beautiful. But obviously because of look, 1981, this was when logos and artwork, this was done on board and these were cut and pasted. So over time, obviously the glues that they've used and have yellowed where the artwork has stayed the same. So I thought it might be interesting to show what it looked like. This was just a cover for a Future Shock, funnily enough. This isn't anything to do with an ongoing storyline or anything. So I just thought we'd start there with that. But I've got a stack of 2000 ADs to go through, so we can just, I thought it'd just be interesting. I mean, this is the period of his artwork that I kind of, I wouldn't say I fell in love straight away, but that's blown up from a battle scene. But this is the artwork in here is, I think it's either the actual size it would have been created at, or thereabouts. You know, you don't get a lot bigger than this. Obviously, this is a limited edition online through Rebellion, 500 copies. So they've got a tipping plate here, which is his new style. And he's trying to. I mean, this is definitely his more linear style, but he's done a hark back to those scratchy blacks that we will have a good look at, these scratchy blacks, and I'll tell you the story behind that as well. But I've got to say, as an artist, you are either going to be in love with him. A lot of people call him an artist, Mick McMahon. And I can see why, because I didn't fall in love with his Slaine artwork straight away, to be fair. I loved his Dredd stuff, but his Dredd stuff was a bit more organic. There's a picture there from when he was doing Roadbusters, and again we'll get into it, where he was going proper Kevin O'Neill, because he was either alternating or followed Kevin O'Neill after on Roadbusters. We'll get into that, but if you just glanced at that looks like Kev O'Neill. But he developed his art style, again. Obviously, this is all the preamble. Here's the glossary of the issues that they're going to go through. So, right, we've got our first page here, and as I said, look, we've got the lettering that would have actually been written out on pieces of see-through. What would you call it? Acrylic, or that see-through stuff. And here we go. And this is the. As I was digging this issue out, I realised that I've had this signed by Kevin O'Neill in 1984. And what a comic this was back in the day. I did warn you that this would be a bit of a 2000 AD fest. So let's have a look at what this issue would have brought us. Look, Ron Smith on Judge Dredd. And here we go. Mick McMahon on Slaine. Kevin O'Neill on Nemesis, and Carlos Esquerra on Strontium Dog. I mean, it doesn't get a lot better than that. You've got Brett Ewins on Rogue Trooper. I mean, great characters, great artwork. But anyway, we are looking at Mick McMahon, aren't we? So let's just turn back to the pages that they are. So there we go. That's the full size, actual size. And the story behind this is that Mick was doing this artwork on tracing paper. He was inking it on tracing paper, and then for some reason applying it to over the pencils of the Bristol board. So he'd have his pencils on the board, and then he was inking on tracing paper. But what he was finding is he wasn't using a brush, obviously. When you took the tracing, it was hard to ink the blacks on the tracing paper. So this style, for me, looking back, it really did go well with the Celtic, the idea of this Celtic mythology, the weaponry. As always, Pat Mills really highly researched the Celtic mythology behind it, and these are the warp spasms that they had when they get to a certain age, and they go into fights and they can, bring on these warp spasms. But this style came about by accident. It wasn't an intentional thing, but he kept it because I think it looks like a woodblock kind of effect, which really does suit the old-fashioned era of, look at the Tipex here on the hair, just these details you can see where obviously it had mingled in with the background too much. Just a quick, I don't know if anyone's very eagle-eyed with my logo. My logo, my geekyOlhog logo, just an interesting fact for anyone who cares, is a homage to Mick McMahon's artwork on Slaine. If you look at the bristles on the hog's head on my logo, it is virtually that. I'm not saying I copied that particular one, but I did copy the style. 100% I copied the style. And if you have a second look at it. Now, do you know what? This is better in black and white. It's a shame that whatever they've done there has gone over the. But you can see in the background, these are almost stick figures, and this was the actual wraparound cover. Now, I'm going to say straight out, that looks better in black and white. Colour does nothing for it. Like the blue hair. I mean, I know they put blue face paint on, and it would have been a more colourful world than what's sometimes depicted in TV and film, according to historians. But I've got to say, I prefer 100%. I prefer his artwork in black and white. That's just me. And again, we get more of the, but look at how much detail is in this, and then you've got these inset panels to just bring the story along. A lot of the time, he did have quite a rigid a panel structure to his pages. But this is the Sky. I mean, that's Hero's Blood one. It was Sky Chariots a bit later on, where he really did. It was really taking off. I don't know what issue of 2000 AD that story was. Yeah, so here we go. We're 1983. Was that the last page? It was. Let's just compare. There we go. You can just see how this was translating, almost like it was losing nothing. If anything, it was getting better. That detail and all this, that liney stuff. Like I say, I do think, from what I've read, it did split opinion back in the day in 2000 AD, because this was back in the day when you would have to write in to your favourite comic and tell them, they would have voting little voting forms. This was 1983 was pre everything, so you'd have to literally lick a stamp and put it on an envelope. Let's just have another little look, though, at what was in 2000 AD. Ian Gibson on Judge Dredd. What wonderful. God, how we were spoiled. Look, Ian Gibson, who sadly passed away in December last year. I suspect that they need to do, because he went on to do Halo Jones with Alan Moore. So I suspect there'll be an Apex edition of Ian Gibson. I was going to do a video for Ian Gibson, but realised that it was kind of mostly Halo Jones, and it wouldn't have been a very interesting. More Kevin O'Neill on Nemesis, more Oscara on Strontium Dog, and who have we got on Rogue Trooper? Looks like Cam Kennedy. Yeah, Cam Kennedy. Look at his artwork on. I loved his artwork on Rogue Trooper. And he came from the War Comics, Cam Kennedy. I know this is a very British-centric video of mine. Right, Hero's Blood Part 3. Let's just take a quick... I won't go through every page like this. I just thought it was interesting to show how these pages translated and how it got darker. Obviously, this might be the reproduction of this, but if you don't think you're in Celtic England, even if you couldn't see the words, if you had to name, even from the lettering, from the font and etc., if you didn't know you was in Celtic England, then yeah, it's just great. All great stuff. And this was what I would call mid McMahon style. Just somehow very economical of style. I mean, the Celts were trained to throw spears with their feet in case they got knocked over in combat, and that might save their lives. So that was a skill they actually did study. But this scratchy style, you may think, is a lack of discipline, but it is not. The more Sky Chariots, this is where it all, for me, this storyline and his artwork is literally where it all came true for me. I was maybe still debating before Sky Chariots. I mean, I know this is part 3, but up until this point, I think I may have been debating whether or not I actually did like this stuff. And I decided I did. A little bit darker than what we have been used to be fair. in this. It does seem like the blacks are black, but he may have had to do that. Otherwise, it would have maybe the logo wouldn't have shown up, or maybe there were other considerations. This page might be from another storyline. Yeah, it's probably from another issue. And again, just quickly, at the front of this beginning of this comic, you have got Mike McMahon on Slaine. Then you've got Alan Davis on an Alan Moore written DR and Quinch. Look at Alan Davis early on. I mean, he's a bit like Steve Dillon. He came right out of the bat with great artwork. You've got more Ian Gibson on Dredd. Again, I won't dally too long because we are talking about McMahon. More Ken Kennedy on Road Trooper. What a comic that was. What an absolute beautiful comic. And the Sky Chariots page, there we go, just so I'm not going mad. Yeah, and even on this newsprint paper, it gives this more of a, I don't know, just that oldie-weldy feel that I think just really suited this. Yeah, and he's cramming it in. He's cramming, just, yeah. There we go. The next chapter in the saga, part 5. Just to compare how glorious, and it's definitely a bit darker in style. Definitely. And it just the pacing of this, it wasn't all action, but the pacing of it, and like I say, it's cramming a lot in. I mean, you think of how many panels on that page, like 10? Yeah, 10 panels on a page. I mean, there's a lot going on here that he's cramming in. And that style, here was this is the close-up. I mean, to put seagulls' heads in, close up in the foreground. It's little details like that it makes you realise how much nature was in his work. And just putting these little V's in for the birds because it's Sky Chariots. You can't. I don't know whether that would have been in the script for McMahon. Stuff like this. I don't know. A hawk. Bringing a fish back to the nest for its chicks. I don't know if that would have been in the script. That's a very If anyone watching knows, let me know. And again, the detail in it. This isn't, like I say, some of his detractors would say that this looks like a very rushed, sketchy style. You can't rush this. You can't rush the placement of pages like this. You can't rush that. And he has. I have heard him called the artist's artist because I know that is anatomically correct. There is no, apart from when they have a walk spasm, he's not twisting. Don't get me wrong, he is, like it says in the introduction to this book, very considered. And look what happens, just quickly. That obviously isn't McMahon's art on the cover. And you can just tell. And I'm not saying it isn't anatomically correct, but look at it. That's what you do when you try and copy and rush it and try and make it sketchy. Doesn't work. Doesn't work at all. There's a cover. That is actually McMahon. You can just tell the flourish he's got. You can tell that it is him. And the first on the page, I think Nemesis would have still been going on. Oh no, it's Judge Dredd in the middle pages. Oh, we've got another Alan Davis and Alan Moore, DR and Quinch in there. It's just beautiful stuff. And the plot, the storyline is really, really coming along. And look at now he's using like a Celtic style panel, or patterns. It just suddenly changed. Like I was just saying, he obviously exists at the abstract end of artwork. From the centre out. That is where he belongs, but nevertheless, this is all. It's correct. It is anatomically correct. I don't know. I don't think these pages are reproduced unless I. Oh no, there it is. Again, when I'm saying about nature, it isn't all about. Off in the distance. What was this flourish for? Now you come right back down to the ground again with the hair running away. Beautiful. And then we're kind of coming. This was from the book of Scars, episode 3. That's Prog 1846, so we're coming right up to date with this. And guys, I will admit, I stopped getting 2000 AD after the first 10 years. And there is that is the last page of Slaine in the Apex edition. Obviously I haven't got, but look how his style has changed. Let's just take a moment. Now the blacks are black. Got to admit, I prefer this. But as an artist, he wants to. You just know he's an artist that literally wants to develop, and he's using flat blacks now. And this would have been in colour, I'm assuming, because otherwise it wouldn't be that flat in black and white. Whereas this, he knew was going to be in black and white. And I just love it. Here we go again with the animals. All the birds around him. That really does evoke just putting a skull there. I can't think that for 1 minute that Pat Mills said to put a skull there in the foreground, in the script. But this just illustrates how, the same character, my logo doesn't have black spiky hair, he has that style. Prog 105, 2000 AD. This is from a tipping sheet from Warrior's Dawn. And again, this is his new style. Like on the tipping plate for this book, he's trying to do the shading again in that scratchy style, rather than the complete blacks of that other page. He's trying to go back. You can see it. Can barely see it. But you can definitely see how his art has changed, kind of solidified a bit more. And I loved his work on this. That's why it was such a. If you can imagine this artwork, and he'd followed Carlos Esquerra on Judge Dredd back in the very, very early issues of 2000 AD, and this is his art style that I really did fall in love with. From obviously copying Esquerra, and then moving on to Robustas, I'm pretty sure. And this was the issue. This was the issue that this story was in. Bolland cover. Again, look how spoilt we are in 1979 in England. You've got Brett Ewins and Brendan McCarthy on Judge Dredd. The Judge Cal storyline, that was mad as anything, that storyline. As mad as the stories get, I tell you. We've got Ian Gibson. Look at this art. Look at this. The Robo Hunter. Look at everything that's going on that page. Look at it. Absolutely superb. We really were spoiled. Strontium Dog. The centre pages were in colour just to give us all a treat. And here we go, Dave Gibbons on Dan Dare. pre-Watchmen. Ah, awesome. And you can still, Dave Gibbons is one of those artists again who comes straight out of the can, more or less ready to eat. If you follow the analogy, because his style, you can tell, hasn't changed much. He's instantly recognisable style, but nothing wrong with that. Same with Steve Dillon, and the same with who's the other artist I mentioned earlier on. Doesn't matter because we're here for McMahon. And there we go. That is the page with, as you can see, all the glues and stuff. As you know, even the little credit card would have had to have been glued onto the board. But that is how it looked, which is superb. For me, back in the day, 1979, I would have been 12. So I would have literally been weaned. In comic book terms, I've literally been weaned on this stuff. Again, more Ian, Ron Smith on Dredd, Ian Gibson. Look at these pages by Ian Gibson. I'll have to do a video on him. I think it isn't just Halo Jones, is it? It's Robo Hunter, it's Judge Dredd. And I'm sure when I start researching, I'll do, yeah, look, there and there. So Roadbusters, that is the final page. Is it the final page? Or a page, this page. Yeah, this robot, look at the shadowing and the robot lurking. Now he's kind of getting sucked into the bush. Love it. But as you can see, a completely different style, what I would call a more traditional style. And that's the page for that. For this. I like the inventiveness of these writers and artists back in 2000 AD. Pat Mills, John Wagner, Alan Grant, a lot of them, all the writers and the artists. And this issue that this story's from. I mean, look, the melting robots here, look, almost looking like it's crying, like it's melting from the eyes and sweating. So even then, like, there was, sulfuric acid storms. So in this storyline, they kind of want you to feel sad for the robots because, look, the human masters are in their bubbles. So you've got the crying and the sweating, like that's so again evocative, that word. And that was the cover by McMahon of the issue that these two pages were in. The Fall and Rise of Rojaws and Hammerstein was the name of the storyline. Issue 108. And again, this story was all about feeling sorry for the robots. It's tricky to do. Very tricky to do, in my opinion. Having a burial. It's great stuff. It's great stuff, and I do think it stood the test of time. There is tongue firmly in cheek with this, particularly with like Rojaws and Hammerstein. But nevertheless, this artwork, you're in it. You're 100% in, and his use of different forms of panel construction. He's playing around with either. Sometimes he's rounding it off. Then we've got a borderless panel. Now we've got a square kind of double framed, like almost a frame effect because it's quite sad, which is nice to be fair. Very, very nice. And all the shadows gone. Now we've got some light. And then it goes from this, which I like. We're going to see in the early Dredd work he did. A little bit of Tipex here, look. Maybe he's just used the panel border like that. And again, look, he's just stopped there. Why do that? He's thinking about, he's just playing around with the whole concept, to be fair. And these pages, or particularly this page, shows you, like I said at the beginning, this is the panel blown up to the full size. Is when he was kind of trying to, I don't want to say mimic, but or I don't know, maybe influenced by Kevin O'Neill. His very, very angular style, but mixing McMahon's. This is McMahon. All all scratchy, a bit more cartoony. But then when you get to the vehicles, he's really taken a leaf from out of Kevin O'Neill's book, and again, Kevin O'Neill, another just great artist from 2000 AD. If you don't know what I'm going through here with 2000 AD, you'll know him from League of Extraordinary Gentlemen that Alan Moore wrote, and I think that was, I don't know who published that. I forget who published that. But this story was in this issue of 2000 AD, 1979, so we're going back a bit again. Brendan McCarthy, Judge Dredd, look at that cover. And 2000 AD went to a smaller format. It was quite a wide, it did go back to the wider format, 2000 AD, but for a while, not for very long. Probably only a few months actually. It went off of newsprint to a slightly better grade of paper, which seemed to bring the colouring out more, even though it was still black and white comic apart from the centre pages. And I thought, this blew my mind at the time. And the fact that these colours were popping right off the page like an American comic book would. And again, we're spoiled. We got that on the cover. We got Brett Ewins on Judge Dredd. And Rick Random, that was a bit of a throwaway story, but you're always going to get a dog in an anthology. Look at the colouring on the Strontium Dog. Scarer's working colour. It's great. It's great stuff. And again, the detail on a Scarer's work. Some of their best, they've done their best work for 2000 AD. Dave Gibbons again on Dan Dare. God, talk about being spoiled. Right, and here's Robert, and here's Mike McMahon. And here's the panel we're talking about. And you could say that was Kevin O'Neill, and that one. With this angular, but the spaceships do need to be angular, so and vehicles. But I just thought that was quite an interesting, this kind of stuff, which is early megacity. His early megacity architecture would be this style. You wouldn't see it, not like Ron Smith's megacity, which would be more traditional, city blocks, skyscrapers, etc. It would be that. Again, all the mayhem in this. To open up the story, you've got 4 or 5 stories, ongoing stories in 2000 AD, and you open up the story with that. Like I keep saying, we really were spoiled. There is the actual size page. I know the pages are yellowing, but I think this artwork let me know in the comments, because I think this artwork looks spot on in black and white. I don't think colouring would add anything, and it's probably because these artists, not just McMahon, Brian Bolland, Kevin O'Neill, Ken Kennedy, Dave Gibbons, maybe not Dave Gibbons so much, to be fair, because his artwork does look, this is the next issue I've got loaded up, and that's a Dave Gibbons cover. I think his artwork goes beautiful with colour, but somehow this work looks just great as it is in black and white. But that's just me. Again, the spaceships. Different to see him out in space as well, because he's not a fan of heavy blacks, but he's got to, because we are in space. Love the kind of like the explosion effects he did as well, where you would just have bits of splintering within the explosion. That very, very much a hallmark of his style on this storyline. Because obviously it did require a lot of explosions. Look at this detail in the foreground again. Look, just a dead soldier holding the end of the rifle with a bayonet on it. Great stuff. more. Obviously, this storyline required a lot of spaceships and vehicles, and this is more his style again. So we're on the ground, but this is a bit, you know, he's allowed to have a bit more of a McMahon flourish there, but he really goes O'Neill. You can, these Apex books are so gold. You can literally see where he's blacked out. You can see the different inks he's used to black out around there. I don't know if it's going to come out on the I hope it does on the video, and the way they're Tipexing out the speech balloons, you get a real insight into how these things were put together back in the analog days, back in 1979. And that obviously that Gibbons cover, which we've already looked at. Let's see how that would have come out. That's how it came out on the page. Sorry guys. That's how. Yeah, great stuff. Pete Knight doing the lettering, getting the Tipex out. Never actually looked at the lettering robots before, but let's call them unsung heroes, because obviously without them we'd be lost, wouldn't we? There's more of the same, the mad eek. I wonder if that was in an ARG. I wonder if they were in the hey. I wonder if these were in the scripts. Satan Dart, love it as the name of a spaceship. Proper O'Neill game. Mongrel, great character, and the ABC Warriors with Mongrel in it. And again, here we go up. Well, we say up today. It's 10 years old. His latest style, again, flat blacks. And I'm saying flat blacks because, all right, I know he's using black here, but look at where he's doing. Maybe but he knows he's in black and white here. He's also using some of that. What's that called? That zipper tone stuff. It's unusual for him, so I don't know if that was added on after, or he was just, again, he may have been experimenting a bit for a while. And that was a beautiful story as well. The story of this of Mongrel, his origin story. I just realised that because I'm looking at the artwork and I'm not looking at. That was a beautiful storyline. That a kind of classic trope. Here we go. ABC Warriors. So I'll just quickly show. That was, sorry, I've skipped an issue, but I just wanted to show this Bolland cover again. Actually, the colouring suits Bolland's work. You know, Ron Smith on Judge Dredd. Like I said, Ron Smith's architecture and vehicles. But again, look at the detail compared to a lot of artists today. Look at these guys that are working in black and white. Look at how much they put in into their storylines. Yeah, this character, she kind of saves him from the scrap heap. What was her name? Yeah. What was her name? Oh, Lara. Yeah, it was really nice storyline that. For here we go. Kevin O'Neill cover for the issue that this ABC Warriors was in. And this is, I don't know whether, this looks quite a digitally created, but it couldn't have been. Not in 1979, no way. But classic Kevin O'Neill with the vehicles, and like I've been saying about Al McMahon, we've got a Bolland Judge Dredd. I don't know if this is in his Apex edition, which I will be doing. Might do that next, actually. The Apex edition, and Kevin O'Neill, as I mentioned earlier. Look at this beautiful Bolland work. Look at this. And it would have taken him ages. Classic. Oh. classic stuff. That disaster, that was a bit of a faraway story. That, there we go. I don't know if we're... I mean, the colouring... I mean, I'm assuming McMahon done the colouring on this. Because otherwise it wouldn't be on this sheet. So, obviously something gets lost in translation with the printing process. Well, I know he did his own colouring on the Judge Dredd annual, which we're going to see shortly. But this, like I say, this slightly... I mean, that is, you can't get... It's kind of like exact, more or less. That stuff there. It looks great. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. I would bet £1 or $1 that is McMahon doing the colouring there. And great stuff. And great stuff it is. And this is, like I say again, his explosions, where he whites everything out and just gives you the shrapnel and the bits and pieces. Bit of smoke there, look. Here's the cover. McMahon's cover. Actually, you can kind of see the brush strokes here, and it's been left in. Which I don't think it... General Black Blood, these were great characters, these ABC Warriors. That was a great story. There's so much. That first 10 years of 2000 AD, I'd say 5 to 10 years 2000 AD, were absolutely spot on. Yeah, Joey Apples, was it Joey Apples, his name? Yeah. And this storyline is collecting the ABC Warriors, so it's a bit like I think at one point, was it Pat Mills? I'm sure it was Pat Mills. Called them the Magnificent Seven. He did like his hairstyles, McMahon, didn't he? I've noticed that he kind of only had, in the early days. Again, though, he does love getting a bit of nature in. I know this is a jungle scene, but, you know, I'm pretty sure the script wouldn't have asked for a bird on a branch. It would have asked for all this, you know, camouflage robots, you know, with guns pointing out of the undergrowth. I'm pretty sure, well, I'm betting my life on this book, aren't I? I'm pretty sure, I'm betting that weren't in there. This kind of peacock-like, you know, alien bird. And this is how they find General Black Blood, yeah, General Black Blood. All these, yeah, and at one point, Joey's Magnum Macho 3000 sniper rifle. I loved this stuff when I still do. What am I talking about? I still do. Look at that for a piece of artwork. And you know, the way he's obviously, and I know it's a classic trope, but we're talking about 1979 here. These panels are, you know, it's jumping off the page. Absolutely jumping off the page. And then from that's ABC Warriors. The next storyline was on Mars. Mars, the devil planet. Now that is the, which they haven't reproduced in this book, but I thought I'd show you anyway. We're on prog 129 now, still in 1979, so very good year for McMahon. And these are the ABC Warriors all assembled. The mech, is it, there's 7 there? Oh yeah, no, well, I'm counting the names, so I don't know if they included the jar or something there, the mess, but yeah. And again, spaceships, a la O'Neill, and the monsters. This is where he shines with the more organic stuff. Not that he can't do technology, because that clearly shows he can do guns, he can do spaceships, robots, you know, everything. But there's the 2 pages, just to give you an idea of how it went. That's the last page of that particular issue's storyline. Now this page is from this issue, and he also done the cover. Looks a bit like old Torquemada, to be fair. And this is another centre page that obviously they haven't reproduced in the book, so I'll just give you a little look. We're looking at McMahon's artwork. There we go. He didn't repent on the front. Perhaps he was a fanboy. No, I think he was linked actually. I think they did link it. Yeah, pretty sure they did. Otherwise, that's a bit too coincidental. But at the end of the day, it was Pat Mills on the ABC. I should have known that. Really, should have known that. But again, glorious detail all the way to the back. You know, that proper depth. Reminds me of Spike from the Cursed Earth saga, which I'll go through in the Judge Dredd, Mike McMahon's Apex edition, but just purely on Judge Dredd. There's a little bit of Dredd in this, but I'll do Bolland first so we don't overload on McMahon. I mean, I can overload on it, but I'm aware of that you might be interested in one Apex edition, but not two on a trot. Let's just take a little moment. Oh, wow. George's got 5 brains. He's such a massive robot. We're still on Mars here. His name's George, and this is where Pat Mills this is the world that Pat Mills. I thought that would have been the centre page for that, but it's not. I've got the wrong issue there. Oh, 130. That was the issue before, just the centre page. I mean, how mad and inventive and crazy is this stuff? You know, they're on Mars, the Red Death, you know, unclean, you know, robots coming out to collect the dead. Love it. So this, I'm pretty sure, is the centre page. Yes, it is. Oh, George. I mean, so this page isn't coloured. This is interesting now, because that other centre page that we saw of ABC was coloured, wasn't it? So I don't know whether or not we're getting into an age where the colouring is done on top, or in some other format maybe. Don't know. Hopefully someone can give me a clue in the comments. But again, the inventiveness of this stuff. You know, and this is classic McMahon, this style. Even though it's a robot, giving him this human. You know, these aren't. These are our ABC warriors, but these aren't. You know, he's designed to look like a human, but not this. You know, not this. You know, a robot smiling, really. You know, making a grimace. Yeah, they really have got tongues firmly in cheeks here, guys. I think artistically and story-wise, this was the cover for this particular storyline with George. Look, obviously he's tramping around, you know, can't find his way, fighting mad George Colossus of Mars. He's got 5 brains and neither of them, you know, a bit like the Tin Man from Wizard of Oz, I suppose. You can imagine him, his movement. And look at this is Gary Leach on Judge Dredd. Before this predates his work on Miracle Man. This cover, he done work on this for, look at that, and he done VC. He done the VCs as well for 2000 AD. Gary Leach, loved his artwork, but again, very dark, complete contrast to a lot of what was going on at the time. But nevertheless, this is class. These are class comic artists. Oh, Bellina Donnelly, another artist. He done Dan Dare in the early years of 2000 AD, but went on to this Black Hawk stuff. Again, always his imagination just on certain storylines. You know, he's certain storylines his work wouldn't suit. Oh, there we go. Look at that. postergraph. So they've made the centre page as a poster, but put story in it as well. And each, because Joey Pineapple, I'm sure it was Pineapples, only spoke in numbers and letters, like he was the sniper. So what we got, 5 of the troops, yeah. Oh, and the 6th one on his head. All systems report. Great stuff. And they're going all in by the looks of it to save poor old George. Some character designs. Oh, I just mentioned that is the VC. Yeah, the VC's character designs. Here we go. So that's another story that Gary Leach worked on. Issue 140. Sorry, I've got my pile. 2000 ADs, guys. A bit of Ron Smith. On Judge Dredd. He done so much Dredd, Ron Smith. Not the most heavily stylised of artists, but he had still had a distinct style and worked in British comics for decades and decades. I'm pretty sure he started off in the 50s. But there we go. That is you can see where the pasting, the glue on the lettering. And we're still in this era of McMahon, like not the mid stages of Slaine, I would say, but moved on from his early work on Dredd, for sure. And he said, when he was interviewed and he was asked about his big feet, he did say they're not big feet, they're big boots. But I don't know, this character is clearly illustrated like he's clearly got big feet. So there's not really much to add to what's previously been said. So I'll just kind of go through a few of these pages, guys, and just let you kind of soak it up a little bit. The VCs. And that was just Pat Mills, I won't say standard, I can't say standard, but war story, but yeah, just a war story set in space. This young guy thrust into, he's the green recruit, a bit like Platoon. I don't know if Platoon would have been out. What year would this have been? 1982. So yeah, it might have been. It was very like, Royal recruit, he's the sergeant major, these are all your other characters. And right, this is a weird old one. I didn't go much on this, to be fair. Super Bean. I don't know what they were playing at here. To be completely honest, not a fan. It hasn't kind of resonated with me throughout the years. This one, until I opened up this Apex edition and thought, oh yeah, yeah, didn't get it. So this is the issue this story would appeared in, but in the centre pages, we're kicking off the Apocalypse War, one of the longest running Dredd epics. Well, look at that as an opening. I think Carlos Esquera done I'm pretty sure he done every issue, because I did do a video of Esquera. I'll put the link up. Any 2000 AD links I've got. I'm pretty sure he done every, and it took something out of him. And then Elliot on Ace Trucking Co. That was a good story. And Alan Moore Future Shock there in 1982. Like I say, we were sport. John Cooper, again another British artist who worked on battle and action, amongst other things. And Super Bean, here we go. He's up and back. And it's clearly McMahon if they didn't have the credit thing there. But yes, I think they've kind of put this one in for completists only, guys. Yeah. About a bean who has a cape, and then yeah, and then gets falls into a machine, which we see at the beginning with the things. So, right, here we go. The Return of Rico. Now, if you've seen the Judge Dredd film, no, not that one, the Stallone one. Rico is in it, and this is Prog 30 of 2000 AD. The 29th story, because he only appeared in issue 2 onwards, Judge Dredd. I think he's appeared in every issue since. So, we're talking about, this is year 1 Dredd. This is year 1 Dredd. And Rico returns from, I think it's a penal colony on the moon. But you don't find out, you know, he ain't heavy, he's my brother. Here we go. This was a Bolland cover, 1977. Brian Bolland cover. This is before he done any interior. This is before he done any interior artwork. And before he, you know, he went on to do Judge Dredd, etc., etc. He done a lot of covers in this era of 2000 AD. You've still got Invasion running, that run from issue 1. Here we go, the return of Rico. It's basically Dredd that sent him to, I'm sure it wasn't Mars. I'm sure it was a penal colony on the moon. Here we go, that's the page there that they've got. They haven't, because obviously they haven't reproduced every single page. Because the artwork back in these days, they would have just put in, it wouldn't have gone back to the artist. So this artwork, they've had to collate through fans and etc, etc. So yeah, this artwork is old now. What is that? 23, you know, 40, nearly 50 years old, these pages of artwork, and they were just put in, you know, a lot of the time in British comics, they would just destroy them every few years. They'd empty out the filing cabinets, the artwork wasn't returned to the artists, and they would just destroy it, get it all destroyed. It would all go to pulp. So, which is really, really sad. Very, very sad. That's how they end up. That's how they end up. Because they have to be adapted to, and it is, I'm pretty sure it's the working vacuum. So they seal up your mouth and nose and adapt your body to work in the vacuum. So basically, look, I'm sure it's the moon. That's going to really annoy me now. Yeah, let's say it's the moon. I can't quickly find. And they give you, and what they did in this storyline, just quickly, this is obviously McMahon's early work. But what they did do, this is quite a seminal storyline because it started giving you background to the judges. Up to this point, you didn't really know a lot, which was good in a way, but obviously they can't do that forever. You know, you can't. Oh, Titan. 20 years on the penal colony, so he's back after 20 years. He's been to Titan. Now, I thought the moon might sound a bit bland, actually. So, yeah, and all classic stuff again. Explosions with all these bits in, you know, these little tropes are. And like I said, he was kind of going more earlier scarer with his artwork. You see, this is McMahon point 1. I know I'm all over the place with my examples, aren't I? But I just can't get enough of this early 2000 AD stuff. There we go. That's how the page looked when I opened it up in 1977 at the age of 10. And these are the comics I grew up on. No wonder I am as I am. Shut up, everyone. He ain't heavy. He's my brother. And again, I think is that early Pat Mills or was that John Wagner? Oh, it hasn't got the, what's it? Anyway. Now we're on to the annuals. And this is when McMahon was colouring. He did the colouring for this. And I've got to admit, when I bought this was the first Dredd annual. lovely Bolland cover. So this predates the Dredd magazine, the Dredd. So to get a standalone Dredd annual was it blew your mind. Ron Smith kind of, that's how he done this. This is what I was trying to get at earlier. How he done more of classic skyscrapers, whereas we will see in the McMahon, particularly in the early days, his view of megacity, and this story with the Boeing stuff. So you can literally get yourself sprayed up. You go you play a pinball games. You are the ball, and then they cut you out at the end with these tools. And it's like the boot in colour. I mean, these colours do suit Dredd. I know this should be black leather, but you can't really do like black leather. But like the lawgiver in the boot and the tread, like the tread on the boot and I love McMahon's. Dredd. And colouring his own, this was just different. This was something apart from what we were used to. And this is 1981. So we're 40 odd years. 40 odd years later, here we go. It's more or less exact. And he'd done his own colouring, and like nowadays, he likes using now flat blacks and this flat colouring, from what I'm led to believe. And that was reproduced in black and white in here. I don't know why they've done that. I suppose it was just to fill a page that was probably going spare. There we go. And they did I think they reprinted. Did they reproduce? Oh no, this was the first ever. That was the first ever Dredd. They gave you the story behind it. And that was his Scarer's art. That obviously that McMahon was trying to, not copy, but continue. Let's just say, even down to these little explosions with his, that was a style that he kind of ran with, and he ran with this as well. This kind of what Esquerra created, and this was a page that Esquerra had come up with that they just blew everyone's minds at 2000 AD when he first come up with it in 76. It would have been 76, 77. Like I say, completely different from Ron Smith's style. Look at that, £1.80 back in the day. Here we go again. This is another story from this annual. The fear that made Milwaukee famous. He resurrected. Sound effects again. I wonder if I don't think they still do this anymore. Arg and Buddha for his it's cultural appropriation. So they can't do that no more. But again, just he's colouring his own work, and you can see the artist in him. He's a great artist. Knows how to colour, because he obviously does, and he obviously is. Beautiful stuff. Again, we've got all this hatching instead of flat black, or what you'd call hatching. It's not really proper hatching, is it? It's like a scratchy kind of shading, but really just suited this colouring style, because he's just using a darker blue, isn't he, instead of blacking it out. Because he obviously knew he'd be colouring his own work. I don't know if that come out. We need to have a look at how this how that come out actually in the annual, I think. Let's have a look. This is the shock. By the way, this is the shock story that got Kevin O'Neill and I don't know who Rogan is. This got into a lot of trouble from the makers of a film. But I'm going way off piece for that one. But I just thought I'd let you all know this is the original. Have a look that up. Little bit of spot work here by Dave Gibbons. British annuals back in the day would always have a text story or two, just to save money, because a lot of the time these annuals, these yearly books, would be done on a very minuscule budget, and these would be cheap to just cut the spot illustrations and just pay someone for a one-off story rather than get the artwork. Go for the artwork. Here we go. Can see now how it come out. Yeah, and it's more or less, apart from a little bit brighter, I think this would have just faded over time. But you can see how kind of exact it was from the original down to the. I mean, this might be the colours. This might be the colours from the actual paint. I mean, I'm assuming this would have been watercolour. I imagine. Looks like watercolour. Yeah, it's great. Nobody calls me chicken head. This is great stuff. Yeah, Dredd at his finest, and this is his first annual, 1981. He got his big feet going on again. Yeah, really enjoyed this stuff. Playing with the panels. There's something design-wise that just leads you through. There's a dynamism there that just leads you through. Subconsciously. Stuff like this that isn't. He's got no panels there, so he's just breaking all the laws here. Yeah. It's great, and this was creepy stuff as well. Even down to the lettering, they done it. Why put that effect on it? I love it, because it's a ghost story. Classic stuff. Hiding his feet. Probably, he's at the end of the story, and he's because feet are always, as everyone knows, are very, very difficult. Right, we move on a year, and now let's just flick back a bit, pay a bit more attention to what we've been talking about. I sound like an art teacher now, don't I? But I don't mean it like that way. So he's gone from, say, like the Rico element, where he's kind of like a clone of Carlos Esquerra, and he's developing his style now, and he's moving on to a lot of this. He's colouring his own artwork, whether or not he did, by his own admission in this Apex edition at the beginning. There's a quote from him saying that he found this out by mistake. This technique of shading. So just take a moment. So he's kind of, from Esquerra, he's finding his own way, he's developing his art style. He wants his own, obviously wants his own style, and it is coming along. 1 year later, in the next Dredd annual, now we're getting more towards how he is now, really, with the flat blacks and the flat colouring. I love the names of the blocks. John Wayne. What's that? Jimmy Clifford. What's that? Sam Sneed. Oh, Benny Hill. What's that? Indria. Anyway, there was always, when these block names, there was always a bit of an in-joke with the writers and the artists. And here we go. He's done the cover of the Dredd Annual 82 that this story is in. And he's like I say, his style has moved on yet again. But he's using the flatbacks. Gone is the scratch style for Dredd anyway. And just a quick little look at I used to take these annuals to Forbidden Planet in London when they only had one or two. I think they might have had two shops. No, they would have had just the one at the time. Here's our Brian Bolland signature, and here's Mike McMahon's signature, who we're talking about today. Alan Grant, and here's Dave Gibbons. So just a little illustration of what a fanboy I was. The page is coming apart there, but that's just down to the binding. Flab on. Otto Sump's Flab on. You know, the inventiveness of T.B. Grover was Alan Grant's. This is pure Alan Grant, stuff like that. Robert Wiley blog. Right, I need to find this story, don't I? Here we go. I think this will be it. Was it a vampire effect? Or will it be right up the back? It's going to be right up. It's got to be right up the back, innit? Oh, there's one of McMahon's early Dredd stories in this annual that they haven't reprinted in this book. But this might be. But I don't know if this would be in the other Apex edition because it's all his Judge Dredd stuff. But let's just have a quick look here. You can see how he's kind of moving. How can I say it without kind of insulting Mike McMahon, who's got his own unique style? He's taking Iscariot as a starting point. I believe he's taking it as a starting point as a young comic book artist starting out, and you know it's a good place to start. Why not start there? But you can see, and then and then he'll. Bit of Bolland there. You can see he's going to go on to his own as we've been seeing. Here we go. This is our look again. That is exact. So the colouring from the originals to this better stock paper. It's almost like a history of comics, isn't it? And the ways that they were reproduced. That was an even better annual than last year's. Three originals. A bit of history, a bit of Dredd history. Again, they've reprinted early, an earlier Scare one. I think this was the first ever Dredd story. Yeah, it was. Yeah, from issue 2. And they just give you a bit of. This is 2000 AD stuff in in other languages. Excellent. Just love that stuff. Love it. Like I say, I love it. Obviously, I grew up on this stuff. He did later on. He did do, and I think that is in the Apex edition, the Block Wars, and I absolutely love his architectural designs for Mega City 1. Just this stuff is just the imagination in this is unbelievable. Nice bit of. Tumbling like dominoes. Again, this would be the black humour that was in the Dredd stuff. That was the cover of the book that I showed earlier. Here we go again. Is this Mike McMahon doing? It must be doing the colouring because there is the annual. Isn't it funny? Look, you can see that something's rubbed on the stickers or whatever it would have been that they've used to put on top. Look, you can see a crease. I love this stuff. That is an original piece of. Look, you can see the edges. Just the original piece of paper. That doesn't exist. It obviously exists in the digital world now for the reproduction on this book, but excellent. And now we move. So we've leapt from 85. That's the cover. Now we look at this press. I mean, I don't know what year this would be. This Judge Dredd magazine cover, but we are. I think we're coming well up to date now with, and he is moving the dial, like on the Lawgiver. He's moving the dial further and further into that kind of abstract world. This with just the minimal of lines here. Look. There's nothing there apart from that is flat. And that again, he's moved on from this style to that. And this style was moving on. This is 1990 now. And again, look at how close to the end product the original is. Fair play to everyone involved over at Epic. 1990 this was. So this is where this is the era now where all these 2000 AD writers and artists, like I've been showing you, like Bolland, like Gibbons, like McMahon. I think McMahon, out of the lot of them, is probably the one that is. It's fair to say is the least well known, because Gibbons on Alan Moore and David Gibbons on Watchmen. Because Alan Moore and Dave Gibbons on Watchmen, and obviously Brian Bolland, he'd done Camelot 3000 and then went on to, you know, be such a prolific comic cover artist. That McMahon, I mean, he did this and a few, I think he'd done covers for the Judge Dredd comic, you know, and he would do spot work. I don't know what else he did. I can't think of what else he did after this in America. I mean, he obviously done more stuff for 2000 AD. But this was a weird little story, and it's always going to be, because it's by John Howard and Alan Grant. Let me just double check that, guys. John Wagner and Alan Grant, yeah. 1990 Epic. And let's just have a look at these pages here, just to show you the lettering over the top. Here we go. So there is our original page of artwork, coloured by McMahon. And there we go with the lettering on top. And this guy has spent 20 years in suspended animation, obviously, as you can tell by the after an atomic war. Here we go, and this is him coming out. And I don't know how you pronounce that in America. Palkeith, good night, Palkeith. And the irradiated air, the irradiated sky that they're talking about, like some sky. And he's moving into that angular, that kind of, you know, he's just constantly evolving, the guy. It's as simple as that. And I've got to admire him for that. Pushing and pushing. You know, like I said earlier on, anatomy-wise, yeah, this is all there, but that, you know, is it a gorgeous depiction of the female form? It kind of isn't, is it? Is it realism? Is it abstract? Oh, I don't know. But what I do know is I really like it. And these silent panels really work as well without the lettering. And that shows what a great sequential story artist he is. And these two robots are funny in this story. If you haven't picked it up, I don't know how if you can get it anymore, or you've got to pick up the back issues off of one of the websites or whatever. But it's well worth getting. It's like a 2000 AD story, but it's a obviously creator owned for Epic in America, you know, on glossy paper. Go for it, lads. You know, beautiful. And heavy purples for night time. Great. How do you make green work? You know, making green work with purple and the robots. True artist. Maybe, you know, beyond comic books, he could be a great artist. Like a lot of the artists I like. They could be. But I think McMahon's style, maybe, here's a cover from issue 2, maybe McMahon's style is maybe too much, going into the abstract to do anything else, you know, to do you know, like advertising, or, you know, his zombies look pretty good though. Just the adventures of this guy in a post-apocalyptic America. Here we go. We've got to have a bit of Statue of Liberty. Obviously they haven't reproduced every page, so I'm just giving you a little examples. These are from issue 3. This is the cover to issue 3. Now, as abstract as I'm saying his work leans, we can kind of tell who these people are, can't we? Well, I certainly can. They're ex-presidents. So let's see if we can find, what's this, page 5 it says. There we go. Lettered, and again, it's not far off, is it? It's not far off from the original. Nothing lost in translation. You know, pen, he's penciled it, he's inked it, he's coloured it. Love it. Like I say, these panels really do work. This is the cover to issue 4 that we're looking at the pages now. A hero in the foreground, and our two, you know, Laurel and Hardy in the background. Yeah, can still do the action. Can still do the action properly. There's nothing wrong talking animals. Why not? Why not, indeed? We are reaching the end. That is the end. The end is exhibition art, Victorian Albert Museum, 2000 AD exhibition art. Don't know the history behind that, but that is obviously, you can see the pencils behind there as well. And again, this is more of his modern, or certainly towards his modern style, because he doesn't even, you know, he's thinking about not even doing all this anymore. It's completely flat. So yeah, there we go. We leave with just a blow up. We finish on a blow up of one of the panels from the Roadbusters' earlier story. Well, I hope you enjoyed that. I know it's lengthier than what I normally do, guys. There is the slipcase that it came in, and that is, if you followed me this far, thank you very much. And that is the 2000 AD art of Mick McMahon. So until next time, adios.